Hey y'all, this is Glitter Baddies Boutique. My name is Vienna, and today I'm going to show you guys how to make a snow globe tumbler. So we're taking it back to the basics, and I'm going to show you everything you'll need along the way. So I'm going to start off using a 24-ounce venti snow globe from Starbucks, and then I'm going to use clear Elmer's glue. It doesn't have to be Elmer's brand as long as it's clear, washable glue. And then distilled water, again, doesn't matter the brand as long as it is distilled. Using tap water or purified water can cause molding in the long term. And I'm going to also remove the label. Some people don't, but I like to be able to see what is inside the tumbler while I'm working. And the drill bit size I'm using is a 5/16. I was trying to focus it in, but I couldn't find it while recording, but it is a 5/16 drill bit. The drill brand does not matter as long as it can drill a hole into your tumbler. That's all we needed to do. So I'm going to go ahead and attach it to my drill, and then I'm going to start cutting a hole into my tumbler. I left the audio on so you can hear how it should sound. If you heard that little crack there, that's telling you that you have cut through that first layer. Do not go further than that. We only need to go into that first layer. That way we can apply our glitter and our solution. Once you have cut both holes, you'll see that there are some flakes of acrylic still out there. We're gonna go ahead and clean that up, and you can still hear as I'm shaking it, there's pieces of acrylic that got inside the tumbler. Just go ahead and shake it out until you hear nothing. After that, you should be good to go. You don't want those floating around in your tumbler. So once all that's done, I'm going to go ahead and clear my surface, and then I'm going to tape off my tumbler. This is to catch any glitter that may fall off while we're putting the glitter inside. Before putting glitter, I do like to add a little bit of distilled water on its own to the snow globe. That way it helps prevent some clumping at the top. So once I've added that, I'm good to go. And then I'm going to be using Reflections Purple from itsprettypersonalglitter.com. I will link them below along with all the other supplies that I'm using. And I always get asked what type of glitter works best for these. I prefer a chunky glitter or a chunky mix. Here is a very good example of a chunky mix. It's primarily chunky glitter, and you have a little bit of additional smaller cuts. That's going to help really fill out the snow globe. I can definitely do some more videos on that to show you all the differences, but that's my preference. Everybody has their own, and I just think this works better. And with those two holes, as you can see, the glitter just falls right in. I also get asked why I don't use a funnel. Well, when you have two holes in the snow globe like I do, it works as a ventilation system. So as glitter is going in through one hole, the other hole is working the air out, allowing the glitter to just fall right in. So you can see it really doesn't take that much time for the glitter to fall in. And I went ahead and added a little bit more. And here is how my snow globe looks. A good rule of thumb is not to go past that first line on these snow globes. But here is a good amount of glitter. You can add a little bit more, you can add a little bit less, totally personal preference. So now we get into the fun part. Now we're gonna mix up our solution. You saw here on my sauce bottle, I got these bottles from Amazon. I already marked off the 1/3 line. It's an estimate. It does not have to be perfectly exact, but I do 1/3 of the clear glue and 2/3 of the distilled water. So you can pause here, but it will also be linked below with all of the supplies that I'm using again. So once we get all of that in the bottle, I'm going to go ahead and close the top and give it a nice little shake. You don't want to vigorously shake it because that creates a lot of air bubbles, but you can see I'm just kind of tilting it back and forth, getting it nice and swished around until it is mixed up. You can totally do this in a bowl with a spoon if you'd like. Totally up to you, but I do make quite a few of these, so I like to have a few bottles prepared and ready to go on hand. So now that all the glitter is in, my solution is mixed up, I'm going to go ahead and clear off the top here, get my tape and kind of clear that off, and then I'm going to clean my surface with rubbing alcohol. The spray bottle that I'm using is from Resin Rockers. I will also link them below. But I like to make sure that my surface is clean throughout the entire process. So you're going to see me cleaning a lot, but it really does help when it comes to sealing it, which we will go over here in a few minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and start filling up my tumbler with my solution that is already mixed up. I go about halfway to 3/4 of the way full of my solution, and then I'm going to get some painter's tape and some paper towels, and we're going to shake it up here. You'll see here in a second. You can use temporary stoppers or any type of plug that you'd like. This is just what works best for me. But again, here I am cleaning again. And then I'm gonna plug those up. As I mentioned, I just grab a piece of paper towel and some painter's tape. This is just temporary so I can really shake up the glitters. This part is really important in my opinion. You'll notice here in a few seconds when I flip over the tumbler, this is, you know, almost all the way full. But when I flip it over, there is a ton of glitter just stuck there. You do not want your glitter to get stuck there when it settles overnight. So I'm gonna really shake this up. I usually do this better off camera, but I wanted y'all to see the process here. So I'm shaking it up as much as I can, and you can see all that glitter is working out. What this is doing is mixing your glitter and your solution up. And this right here is how you want it to look. This is probably the best tip I can give someone when first doing these. When I first started, I wouldn't shake it up and I used to have a lot of clumping, and I realized later on it was because the glue would just sit on top of the glitter. So this part of the process is going to ensure that your glitter and solution is mixed up before letting it rest. And we will continue on with filling up the tumbler with more solution. I try to fill it up as much as possible, but you'll see here in a second, once the water and the solution gets up to the top, there's going to be quite a few air bubbles, but I will show you my best practices on removing those. You can see all the air bubbles there. It's crazy. So again, cleaning my surface, and we're going to let this degas overnight. I like to do it for at least 12 to 24 hours, 48 tops, but if you need it to sit longer, that's totally fine. This is how it looks after sitting overnight. You can see a lot of those air bubbles are gone, and there is a big gap of air, and that's because I filled it up all the way. So I always see that as another issue with tumbler makers who say that, you know, I filled it up all the way, I can't put any more water in. Most of the time it's because they didn't let it degas overnight. And another helpful tip I can offer is to tilt it like you see I am doing here in this portion of the video. I'm tilting it at an angle after letting it degas. This is going to again show me how much air is actually left in the tumbler. And another good tip is to spray or drop some rubbing alcohol directly into the tumbler. This is going to help pop any of those little micro air bubbles that are still caught in the solution. And if you did 2 holes like I do, go ahead and clean your surface and switch over to the other hole. More times than not, I see that there are still gaps of air or just a couple air bubbles in there that I can probably still work out by tilting it and letting the bubbles rise to the other side. So again, working at an angle, I can see a couple bubbles there, spray my alcohol and drop some more solution in. And I'm gonna go ahead and fill it up the rest of the way as much as I possibly can. Once I'm happy with that, again, I'm going to clean my surface. I wanna make sure that it is clean and dry. So to plug our snow globes, this is the very fun part of the process. I'm going to use mini glue sticks. There are tons of ways to plug your holes. This is just what works best for me. Definitely do what works best for you. But it is also a very cheap alternative to plug in your holes. I'll also be using UV resin. The resin that I'm using is from resinrockers.com. I will also link them below, but it is by far the best UV resin on the market in my opinion. You'll also need a UV lamp. This one that I'm using specifically will be linked below. It was recommended to me by Resin Rockers. I love that it has the settings for the timer, an on and off switch. It works great. It is honestly the best. So again, cleaning my surface down, we really need to make sure that it is dry and clean. Those are 2 really important factors when sealing your snow globe. So once I've done that, I'm going to put my mini glue sticks that I've cut down to size into the holes. There are tons of options when it comes to plugging up your holes, but I definitely do recommend putting something there as opposed to just dropping your UV resin inside. Some people do that. If it works for you, do what's best for you. This is just what works best for me. And I can't struggle with these sometimes, but they do fit really well. And this is how it looks. You can see that they are nice and flush with the bottom. You don't want them poking out. That is another really helpful tip for avoiding leaks. And again, I'm going to go ahead and clean my surface, dry it off. As I'm wiping this, sometimes the mini glue sticks will pop out or some water may come out while I'm wiping it due to the pressure that I'm putting on there. that's okay. Just again, make sure it's nice and dry. So after that's done, I go ahead and apply my UV resin. The resin that I'm using again is Resin Rockers UV resin. Once I have that down, I will grab my lighter and apply a little bit of a flame over the resin. That's going to help pop any air bubbles, which can cause leaking. Cure that for 120 seconds. And I like to place it over a dry piece of paper to see if there are any leaks coming out when I first touch it. If there is, I will repeat the process as necessary until there is no more leaks, which I can go over more in detail on another video, but let's continue with the process. Once I see there's no leaks and I'm happy with it, I'm moving on to adding glitter to the bottom of the tumbler. This step is not required, but it does add a nice finishing touch to the bottom of your tumbler, as well as works as an extra seal for those holes to ensure that there are no leaks gonna come out later. And what I do is I lay down some UV resin. I try to find a matching finer cut glitter to match the tumbler. You can use any color you want. I like to match it. And I'll grab this little silicone brush here. You can get these off Amazon. These specific ones that I'm using, I got from Resin Rockers. And I'll just mix up my glitter and my resin directly on the bottom of the tumbler and make sure that it is nice and smooth. You do not want any of those glitter pieces popping out. They'll get kind of sharp and you don't want that. It's going to be really hard to clean that up later. And make sure it's nice and pulled all the way to the edges. This looks really good. I'm going to cure that again for 120 seconds. And then I'm going to pull it out. It's nice and smooth. There's no tackiness or anything like that. And then I'm going to apply another thin layer of resin over that. Again, grabbing my silicone brush here, I'm going to grab this other side of the tool to help spread that out. Again, nice and even. And before curing it on this part of the process, I will grab my lighter again and pop in the air bubbles with the lighter before curing it. That's going to help ensure that there's no like micro bubbles showing through. You want to make sure that it is crystal clear. So again, here I am applying that flame just briefly. You don't need to do it for too long, just to pop those air bubbles in there. And you can see it's nice and smooth. Again, we're going to cure that for another 120 seconds. And once that's done, we'll pull it out. It is like glass here. You can finish this here, but if you like to add the labels to the bottom with your information and care instructions, I just started doing this, but now is the time to go ahead and do that. You want to make sure your glitter is smooth before applying your sticker here. So I'm going to go ahead and add that to the bottom. And then one last time, we will repeat the process and apply some resin, make sure it's nice and smooth. I'm going to grab my silicone brush again to really spread that resin out and make sure that it is nice and flush with the cup. Since this is the final coat, you definitely want to make sure that it is as smooth as possible. You want it to look like it belonged there to begin with. And another little helpful tip is while spreading it, I will kind of tilt my cup at an angle to kind of roll that resin around the bottom of the cup. That's going to help give it that smooth finish. And before I cure it, I like to clean up the edges there with rubbing alcohol and a paper towel. I don't like the resin to hang over the lip of the cup like that. And again, last time, just grab your flame, direct it over the UV resin to pop those air bubbles, cure for 120 seconds, and you are done. If there are no leaks, you should be good to go. I'm obsessed with this cup. You can add decals to the outside, and I can definitely do some more videos on designing the outside, but look how cute this glitter is. I love it. I hope this video was helpful. If you guys have any questions or comments, make sure you drop them below and hit the subscribe button for weekly videos. And if you don't already, make sure you follow me on TikTok and social media for more. Thank you guys so much for watching.